Hi everyone, it's Nick. Welcome back to my channel. Okay, in today's video, we are going to be talking about budget versus luxury items to save on and splurge on in your living room. These are those items that are worth investing in versus those pieces that you can honestly kind of cheap out on because it doesn't really matter. And let's talk about that, right? Because we all have areas that we want to save on and invest in because we know they're going to look better, they're going to wear better, and you're going to hold on to them for a lot longer. And then there's those items where honestly the goods, the cheap stuff and the expensive stuff, it doesn't really matter. They're just sort of kind of, you know, you can get away with saving a little bit of money. I did this for kitchen before and it was really fun to do. If you want to see that video, go ahead and watch it afterwards. I'll link it at the end of this one, or don't. I mean, maybe you're busy. I don't really know what you got going on. But in the meantime, let's talk about your living room and where you can save and where you should splurge. Let's get going. Okay, but before we get to those spend and splurge items, let me thank today's sponsor, which is Vessi. Vessi makes amazing, stylish, fabulous, waterproof shoes. And I'm not even joking when I say for the last like 5-6 years, I've worn Vessis pretty much every single day. I live in these, especially when I live in a really wet city like Vancouver, especially this time of year that we're entering into. Vessis are everything. They are completely waterproof. You can actually submerge, obviously if it goes over the side, don't be stupid, the water's gonna get in. But if you just dip your toe, honestly, these are completely waterproof and that's fantastic. I left Vancouver and I went to Amsterdam by way also of Spain. I spent a couple weeks in Spain and just had a really fabulous time walking around with my new weekend sneakers. These are super comfortable, super stylish, great and super comfy, and also completely waterproof, which is great for a rainy city like Amsterdam as well. So step into fall ready with waterproof, versatile Vessi weekend sneakers. Shop now at vessi.com/nicklewis and enjoy 15% off your first pair with a 1-year warranty and 30-day hassle-free returns. Thank you, Vessi, for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to those save and splurge items. Okay, first on my list is going to be your sofa. And this is an item that I think you should splurge on. Your sofa is a very well-worn, well-used piece of furniture in your living room. It's probably the most used piece of furniture in your living room. And that is why it is worth splurging on. This is your main sofa, okay? Now you could have two sofas if you choose to have them facing each other, creating a little bit more of a conversation format, which is of course wonderful, or it's facing maybe a fireplace, or it's facing the television. Let's be real, it's probably the television. Maybe you're just sitting on your sofa right now while you're watching me on YouTube, I don't know. So this item is well used, and I think it's just really worth splurging a little bit on it. It's gonna look a lot better, it's gonna wear in, it's gonna last you a lot longer, it'll look better for longer. So ultimately, if you go cheap on this one, I think ultimately it wears out and you end up replacing your sofa anyway, and it might even end up costing you more money in the long run. Now, some things that's worth looking at when you're going to be splurging on a sofa, I find there's a few things. So first of all, go for something with a frame that is like a kiln-dried hardwood frame. So something in like an oak or an ash as opposed to a particle board or a softwood like a pine or something like that. I think going for a high quality kiln-dried hardwood is going to make a big difference in terms of just getting the construction and the frame of the sofa. It's gonna be much higher quality. It's not gonna break or snap or warp or do anything weird on you like it might if you use something lower quality like a particle board. Next, we're gonna talk about the cushions, right? I think you want to choose something with like a high density foam that feels really comfortable and really solid over the long term. I think a lot of the lower quality ones, they tend to sag and sort of, look misshapen. And this is oftentimes an area where, 2-3 years down the road, you start to replace these cheaper sofas because they just look like garbage. And that's unfortunate because they just end up going in the landfill or to somebody else on Marketplace. And I think if you invest in a really high density foam, you're gonna be able to get a sofa that is gonna last you a lot longer and wear a lot better. Also, in terms of fabrics, I think it's worth looking at. I think performance fabrics honestly suit the most people. Performance fabrics, I would say 10-15 years ago had a bit of a bad reputation, but they've really come a long way to resist, food spills and stains and things like that on pet stains, whatever. And they're really quite resistant to that. They come up really well. Things in the upholstery, I personally also really look for in the construction. I don't like when a back cushion is just one big lump of foam. I find it tends to sag and degrade over time and you end up constantly having to massage it and manipulate it and whatever, and that's really irritating. Shout out to me, you and me, if we've ever had a sofa like that. It's really annoying to have to deal with. Some of them have like internally, so you wouldn't see it from the outside, but internally to the cushion, they've sewn in little panels inside the cushion. That is generally considered a much higher quality way of building a back seat sofa thing. So that's like much better because that way, each one doesn't sink in. It doesn't become one big sort of mishmash of sinkiness. And instead, each one sort of holds its shape because it's sewn in. Does that make sense? That to me is a much higher quality sofa than you would see the cheaper versions, which again are more likely to sag. I also really look for ones with removable slip covers. Not necessarily like a whole slip covered sofa, but just where each cushion is able to be removable. So it may have a zip on it, you can take it off, and oftentimes those you can just chuck them in the washing machine and you're good to go. That makes it so much easier to refresh. So if they do get a little bit dirty over time, which they naturally do, you just know you're gonna get it and it's gonna be basically brand new, assuming that you invested in a really high quality upholstery. So I find that those things make a huge difference when buying a sofa. High quality sofas will look better for longer, ultimately in the long run, saving you time and money. And also your place is going to be a lot more beautiful because when it's there, it will look more gorgeous. Okay, but now let's talk about the save item. I think the save item would be something like storage solutions. So if you're looking at bookcases or built-ins or something like that, any sort of, low sort of case goods, I think those are better. This is an item you can save on. I mean, for any of the save items, obviously, if money's no object, then feel free to go ahead and buy what you want. That's not why you're probably clicking on this video though. But I would say that if this is an area that you're looking to save on, go for it. Like, there are so many cool little Billy bookcase hacks. There's so many different IKEA products that are out there that are really awesome, that hold up, that, that you use occasionally, but they're not necessarily items that you're gonna have to use like a sofa every single day, right? These come in all sorts of different materials. There's some that are in metal that are really cool. There's some that are in particle board or any sort of veneered product. And honestly, I think that these hold up really well over the long term. As I said, IKEA is a great example of a company that has tons of them. There's lots of thrifted options that are out there that are really, really cool, that are gonna be a fraction of the price as if you were to go buy it brand new, coming in lots of sort of interesting solid wood materials, right? Really quality stuff that is still working hard decades down the road, because this stuff doesn't get used and is not subject to as much of the wear and tear as we're gonna see from the items that I think you should invest in. So storage solutions, definitely something that you can save on. Okay, next up for Splurge is gonna be accent chairs. So you might have one or two accent chairs in your space. This one is something I do also think is worth splurging on. I think it is something this is an opportunity, I think, to go a little bit funkier than your sofa. I think going for something a little bit more timeless in your sofa style is probably gonna serve you well. There are a lot of funky, weird, crazy, cool sofas out there, of course, and if you love them, go have them. But I don't know if necessarily that's really where you should go. I think going for something a little bit simpler in your sofa makes sense, but an accent chair, I think, is an opportunity to have a little bit more fun. And the accent chair can come in really architectural shapes. It can have an interesting fabric. Some of them are a little bit more hard wearing than others, of course, but I do think this is something in your living room that's gonna get a lot of use. Not only is it really cool from a design aesthetics point of view, because it's, again, an opportunity to do something funky, but it's also a really well-used piece of furniture. Typically, I don't think it gets used as much as a sofa does. Most people will choose the sofa as their primary, especially because that's oftentimes what's facing the television or the fireplace or whatever. But an accent chair is going to get a lot of use, and therefore it makes a huge difference to have something of higher quality. Again, similar rules to what I talked about to the sofa apply here. Go for something that is a good construction, something with, a high quality fabric that's going to wear over time. Again, feel free to go funky, but just be mindful of the fact that boucle or velvet, or even something like a faux fur, a sheepskin or something, those might have a little bit less longevity than going for something like a performance fabric, which is going to last you a whole lot longer. But again, because it doesn't get as much use, this might be the area that you want to invest in some of those funkier, cooler fabrics if you so choose. But I do think investing in a really neat sort of side chair or an accent chair is gonna make a huge difference, both aesthetically into your space, but also it's gonna get a lot of use and therefore benefits from being a little bit higher quality. Okay, but next up, we're gonna be talking about media consoles and side tables. I think these two pieces are something that is perhaps worth saving on. And again, similar reasons to what we're talking about for storage solutions. So as you can see so far, we've got the chairs, the sofas, the plate, the things that you sit on all the time, a little bit on the splurge side, and then those case goods, those, maybe they're veneered products, maybe they're not, those hardware, those pieces I think you can save a little bit more on. And again, it's because you're not touching them and dealing with them every single day. Yes, aesthetically, if you want something in like a rosewood or something and it's really expensive, you go nuts, but I don't think you need that in order to create a beautiful, wonderful space. And it doesn't necessarily it doesn't need to be as hard wearing as some of those areas, those pieces that you're gonna sit on. So a media console, a side table, even to a certain degree a coffee table, definitely something that I think you can save on. Okay, but next up, item that you should splurge on is a good quality rug. Rugs, oof, you kind of get what you pay for a little bit with rugs. I mean, some of them are really over the top, but I would say that something that is a hand knotted, something that is a wool rug is going to be hard wearing and something that is going to last you a very long time and is going to stick with you. Some rugs you can absolutely pass down generations, okay? So rugs can absolutely last a long time. Or if you're going to go for the cheap and cheerful route, and we've all gone for the Costco shag rug, we've all done it, you know what I mean? It's $200, it's very alluring. I hear you, I've done it myself. But we all know those end up in the landfill after a couple of years. And when you have have them before they even make it to the landfill, half the time you own them, they look like garbage anyway because they're discolored and they're notoriously difficult to clean and they're just like a breeding ground of God knows what. You're gonna find Legos in there for years. You know what I mean? Like it's just these shag rugs and these cheaper rugs, they're lower quality. They don't feel as good when you're using them. They don't wear very particularly well. They don't oftentimes hold up to rigorous cleaning over time. And again, this is something that you're gonna be using all the time. It might not feel like you're using it, but every time you step on that living room rug, you are using it. And so I think something that is a higher quality, that is going to last you a lot longer, that you can get professionally cleaned and it's not gonna disintegrate. These things in a higher quality fabric, something like a wool is gonna suit most people, is gonna make a big difference, I think, for the quality of your space and your living room. So definitely this is an item worth investing in. Okay, next on my list, item to save on is gonna be throw pillows and blankets. Okay, so this one is a little bit tricky because again, they do kind of wear out, but what I do tend to find for most people is that these are the items that they will oftentimes swap out over time, right? So, you know, yes, the throw blankets are something that a lot of people use to be for decorative purposes, in which case they're probably not going to get a whole lot of use. Some people do use them, and you know, if it's going to be something that you're using on the daily as you curl up reading a book or something, then yes, you know, obviously this might be something that you might want to invest a little bit more in. But for most people, this is almost doubling as decor. And for that reason, I think it oftentimes makes sense to save on these. And what I think makes good sense for most people is like as tastes change, as colors change, they'll oftentimes swap them out. And the thing is too with these is that there's a lot of really great ones that are out there that are quite inexpensive, right? The Sinella from IKEA is a really great one. That is a cover, kind of like a velvet material, and it looks really great. And I think for most people, choosing something like a down-filled cushion, which is relatively affordable, and then using different sort of covers and swapping them out makes more sense. You're choosing different shapes, right? So you're not just using kind of the same size, but you can play around with different sort of shapes and sizes over time of different throw pillows. I think makes sense for a lot of people. If you are going to, you know, investing in some sort of, you know, cashmere throw pillow from Banana Republic or from CB2 or something, or Crate and Barrel, whatever, you know, if you want to, go for it. But I do find that it oftentimes for most people makes sense just to save a little bit of money on these, and you don't necessarily need to go crazy and spend $100 and something on a throw pillow. I think you can be just fine spending the $10, $20 range on a throw pillow and then swapping them out as you sort of need to. As you know, your tastes evolve and change. Some people change them with the seasons, you know, that might make sense for you, but I think that makes more sense than going crazy and investing in some of these, you know, really expensive throw pillows that are out there. Okay, next up on my list is going to be window treatments. I think this is something that you should splurge on. I think window treatments are underrated in terms of what the value they sort of provide to a space. Not only is there like a functional use case for them, so depending on your living room, you might want blackout curtains, or you might want, you know, to provide shade depending on kind of the situation of where your room is or your living room and how much light you're sort of getting in, but it is serving a functional purpose. But also aesthetically, you know, having something, a beautiful window treatment that is sort of like custom measured and it just kisses the floor perfectly, like it really does make a big difference to make a space look really gorgeous. Now there are some affordable ones that are out there, so you know, you don't have to go absolutely crazy on these, but I do think that investing in quality window treatments makes a big difference. If you go for really cheap ones, and I don't just mean like cheap as in fabric, but if you just kind of slap on whatever ones they give you due to the standard height and they're maybe a little too short or maybe a little bit too long, or especially the short ones, right? When you have the puppet show curtains, I call them, those are always going to degrade a space, never make them look particularly beautiful. So I think investing not just in the fabric, we're not just talking about that, but in terms of getting them hemmed, getting them like hemmed exactly so that they just fit just right. A lot of the window treatments, little hooks and stuff that you can buy, they usually give you a little bit of room to sort of play with them depending on the different kind of notches in the, you know, when you hang them from the ceiling, from the rod. You can find ones that give you a little bit of grace up and down by like an inch or two. So that is super helpful. You don't have to get it perfect. So there are ones that are out there that'll help you do that. But if you need to go get them hemmed to get them sort of custom made for you, it will make a big difference for your space. Okay, next item to save on is going to be decor. So what am I referring to? Decor, I mean, decor is pretty much kind of a lot of things. It's pretty all encompassing, but I do think that decor, I'm talking books, I'm talking trays, I'm talking, you know, little things that you want to put around, like little candlesticks or little trinkets, little things that you have that you want to display in your home. This is something that I think is worth saving on. Now, look, if you are going out and you see something beautiful and it's like made of travertine and you're like, yes, I need it, go ahead and buy it. Like, that's your money, not mine. But I will say in general, decor is something that you can save on, because a lot of times for most people, this is a real area that you can show some personal style and really kind of have fun with things that you you just already own and things that you like. So maybe you have hobbies, like maybe you're into photography and you want to display some really cool photographs, or maybe you want to put little, like your cool camera or something on a bookshelf. I don't know. You know, you can have fun with that, right? You can go shopping and you can find really cool places when you travel abroad. Like I'm here in Amsterdam right now. I went to Delft, which is a small town here in the Netherlands, and I found a cool vintage Delft tile, which said this guy like framed for me, and this is perfect, right? Like this is really cool way of sort of displaying on bookshelves or, you know, in coffee tables or on whatever. It's cool things that you found in your travels. That's like my new thing when traveling to new cities, is to find antique stores wherever I go, because you just never know what little trinkets you're gonna pick up in your travels, things that are personal to you that, you know, make you happy, remind you, maybe it's a gift you receive from somebody. These types of things I think are not something that you need to spend a whole ton of money on. They're more personal, and I think that usually makes a big difference in making a place look less like just a feature on Instagram and more your actual home, right? So I think finding those pieces really makes sense, whether it's, you know, supporting a local ceramicist. Maybe you find some cool pottery. Like I found some at a farmer's market when I was back in Vancouver. Loved it, from this local ceramicist. I got this really cool plate, right? A lot of this stuff doesn't have to be crazy expensive, but it is personal and it is really fun to sort of display and show off your travels, your personality, and whatever in your home. It doesn't have to be super expensive. Don't go crazy. You don't have to buy the stuff that every influencer tells you, you know, no matter how expensive it is. Just get stuff really personal and fun that has meaning to you. Okay, next item to splurge on is going to be your fireplace. So if you are fortunate enough to have a fireplace, this is a fixed element, so obviously you don't have to do an entire renovation to make it happen. And this is also subject to regulation depending on where you live, right? Some places do not allow like a wood fireplace anymore. Some places don't allow gas fireplaces anymore. I know in Vancouver we're doing away with gas fireplaces. So you're kind of left with the electric ones, which I'm not a super big fan of, which is why I won't put one in my new home. But I think if you can put in a fireplace, you really want to draw attention to that fireplace, then I think it's worth splurging on. The main reason here is going to be that fireplaces are stunning, they are beautiful, and they really 99% of the time are going to be the main focal point of the living room if you have one, right? So if you have a fireplace and you decided that you need one and you want to put one in your home, or you already have one and you're doing a renovation, whatever, this is the time I think to make that fireplace really pop. And the main reason again is that when you walk into the home, this is usually the place that is the focal point the rest of the living room is built around. Start with the fireplace, you're gonna put the rug in front of it, you're gonna put the sofa, you're gonna situate the entire living room around that fireplace. It's the focus that you drill into as soon as you walk into the room, right? And everything else sort of is kind of either symmetrical or asymmetrical, but built around that fireplace. Make it count, make it pop, do something really interesting, whether that's gonna be with the fireplace surround, whether it's gonna be, whatever the case may be, whatever you wanna do in that fireplace, could be, you know, decorating it on the mantle, what have you. I would invest heavily into making sure that fireplace is really beautiful and pops, because it will make a massive difference as it is the main focal point. Okay, but then my next area to save on is gonna be plants. Now, listen, I am not known for being the biggest plant person around in my home. I don't think I've killed all my plants now. Yeah, they're all dead. They're all dead. So I'm generally, maybe I should water them. Maybe that helps, I don't know. But I'm generally not the biggest plant fan. And so maybe people are gonna come at me because they're just gonna be like, no, you need to buy this super specific plant. Here's why I put this on this list as a save item. You don't need to follow the plant trends, okay? You don't need a black olive tree because Gwyneth Paltrow has one. You just don't need one, right? You don't have to get the latest tree trend, right? It was the fiddle leaf fig and then it was the olive whatever. And like, you don't need to follow it. If you love the tree and you think it's beautiful, go ahead and get it and go ahead and spend hundreds of dollars on it. Go for it, go nuts. But for most people, you don't need to follow the trends when it comes to the plants. And some plants are really expensive. Some plants are not. Some plants are really cheap. And I think for me, if you love it, just put it in your house. It doesn't matter how expensive it is. A plant is kind of a plant, you know? Maybe buy one that makes sense for your water and you're like, make sure it won't die, basically. Like that it has the right water needs, that you're gonna actually be able to take care of it. If it's in direct sun or if it's in part shade or whatever, make sure that it actually makes sense for your living room. Don't get frustrated because it turns out you can't put your tropical plant in God knows where you live because you live in, I don't know, Helsinki or something, and maybe it doesn't thrive there, I don't know. The point is, get the one that actually fits your space, not one that's the most expensive. I think people tend to follow the plant trends, the ones that they see are super popular on social media, and instead, usually the answer here is gonna be buy the plant that you like, the one that is going to actually make sense for your room. Again, I'm not a botanist. I don't claim to be a botanist. Go ahead and go to a nursery and talk to them and tell them what you need. And then find what you actually like. And who cares how much it is? If it's cheap, and that's fabulous. Go ahead and save. Okay, and the next up on my list is gonna be a spend item, and that is gonna be statement artwork. Now, the key word here, I think, is statement artwork, because yes, you can go ahead and save, I think, on, some DIYs or some little decor pieces like we talked about, but I think most people benefit if you're going to have some, cool art and you really want to have a space in your house that's got some really like focal point for you got a wall that you just got this amazing opportunity to present something really cool, spend a little bit more money and invest in art that you actually really like. And the main thing I have an issue with here is people tend to just go to a big box store, they buy whatever sort of art that they can find, and then surprise, it doesn't really look all that awesome because you just bought the same IKEA print as everybody else, right? I think it's better for you to actually maybe support artists if that's within your budget, and splurge a little bit on some really fabulous art that you're going to be happy with for years and years and years to come. It's such a conversation piece. It's such an opportunity to really have fun and really enjoy and express your personality. You can also paint this stuff yourself. This is why it's kind of a little bit of it's a challenge. Obviously, if you're talented and you can create your own art, fantastic, then you just go for it. If you have a friend that gives you a piece or something, that's super cool, go nuts. But I think if you don't have any of those things and you're looking to figure out I need a piece of art for this part of my living room and I don't know what to do, invest in a piece that you love that's gonna be around for a really long time. You know, support an artist, someone that a lot of them are on social media now, you can find lots of really great ones, but really take the time to support original pieces of art if you can. I think it makes a big difference for just creating a space that's more unique and interesting and shows your personality a little bit more than your generic sort of word art or something that you see all the time on, you know, Wayfair or something. That doesn't mean you can't buy it at a big box store. Go ahead and do that too. I'm just saying, if you want that big piece of statement art, that's the key. The statement piece that's like, okay, this is the piece that is gonna really set off the entire living room. Invest a little bit more money and get something cool. Don't just put an eat sign on the wall. Okay, and then last up on my list, which is going to be my save item, and this one's gonna be controversial because I'm feeling a lot of people are gonna disagree with me on that, but that's fine. It's a hot take perhaps. It's gonna be lighting. So do I think that lighting is extremely important? Yes, I do. Okay, so yes, you need more lighting sources than you think you do. Okay, you don't just need the one light in the center of the room. You're gonna probably need about 3 sources of lighting in a living room. That's a good place to start. Ideally, you know, you got accent lighting, you got task lighting, you got ambient lighting, you got all the big different types of lighting in there. If you don't know what those are, I've got tons of videos on the subject talking about lighting. The reason I say this is a save is just because I think there are so many great places that you can buy great lighting that you don't necessarily need to go out and spend a whole ton of money, right? There are so many vintage pieces that are out there, and I find lighting is a category of vintage or thrifted pieces that I think holds up particularly well, right? It's kind of like those case goods I was talking about earlier. There's so many cool places to just find like old schoolhouse lighting or old like lamps or things, or, you know, just there's so many cool ones that are out there, little cool sconces or whatever that you can find. And they generally don't have to be all that expensive. Yes, even if you wanted to source from Amazon or Wayfair or whatever, there's really cool ones that are out there that are super cheap, that are definitely wonderful. Now, listen, if you want to go and get yourself a designer piece for your living room, a big floor lamp that's stunning or whatever. I mean, this one here is gorgeous. Look at this little beauty. Can you see him? Like, look at him. Like, look how cute that is. Like, that's a cool piece. It's got a travertine base. Obviously, if you want to invest in some of these pieces, go for it. But if you're looking to save, I think there are just so many cool vintage and thrifted options that are out there. Even cool ones at IKEA. IKEA's lamp game is just really killing it these days. And there's really cool ones that are out there that provide a nice, beautiful, soft glow that are amazing. The most important things I would say is, one, your variety of your type of lighting. So you got them spaced around the room. You've got floor lamps, you've got table lamps, you've got recessed lighting, you've got maybe lighting in the ceiling. Maybe you want to turn it on, maybe you don't, that's up to you. But you've got lots of different lighting options out there. It's a consistent temperature and it's ideal a little bit warmer than you probably think. 2700 to 3000 Kelvin, don't put in the hospital lighting. No one needs to live in an insane asylum. That's not going to do you any favors in your living room. Ideally also bonus points if it's on a dimmer. Maybe even a Philips Hue situation, I don't really know. But consistent lighting temperature, so you don't have like a blindingly white one and then like an orange light next to each other. That never looks good. So consistent lighting temperature, very light sources, spaced around the room, ideally on a dimmer. This is gonna matter a lot more than how much you spent on your lamp. So yes, there are cool, amazing, beautiful, wonderful, stunning, expensive lamps out there, but you don't need to get them. There's some also really cool, affordable ones too. Okay, that's it for me for today, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this video. I'm gonna link here to my video last week where I talked about spend versus splurge kitchen edition. So if you want to know where to spend and save there, go ahead and click on this video and I will see you all on that one. Talk to you later. Okay, bye.